cannot, brother. It's time.
Welcome to what I call Crucis Ignatus Radio, which simply means signed by the cross, or signed with the cross. It is a throwback to how the Crusaders are recognized, but it's also goes to our Catholic heritage, because we would often make a sign of the cross, and across our forehead and body, shoulder and our chest. And so I thought it very fitting, and makes a lot of sense to me anyway. And when you make that sign of the cross, it also references it is by the cross that we conquer. So the other Latin phrase attached to this is in hoc signo vinci, which simply means by this sign conquer. All right, so we are signed with the cross, and by this sign conquer. And that's the reason I've kind of named my little page this title. I am your host, a Catholic Hammer, and today I was bored and started looking at Twitter, or X, whatever you want to call it nowadays, and I'm noticing a lot of videos that have an uptick in violence. One in particular, I saw maybe 2 or 3 popped up immediately when I opened up the page. And one in particular jumped out at me, maybe because it's a woman involved, I don't know, and it kind of touches me differently, right? But she's standing there talking to this group of black people. I can't tell if it's only guys. Might have been male and female there, but all I could see in the video was a couple of dudes. But they're all getting kind of like accurate with what she's saying, and I can't quite make out what she's saying. But it seems like they're getting argumentative. They don't like it. You can see the body language, getting somewhat disapproving. Well, one guy in particular in a white shirt tends to move closer to her. And, of course, he's kind of getting almost into her face. Now, first thing, anybody gets in your face like that, you've got one of two options. Create distance, okay, back off, get out of there. Or B, headbutt them and lay them out. I mean, because anyone gets that close to you, they're not there to be your friend. They are going to do something. They're just waiting for the right opportunity. And, well, that's what happens with the lady. He's there. He's got his hand up like that for a moment, like with a fist for a second. And she's giving the whole body language of, well, I'm not afraid of you kind of thing. She turns her head just a little bit, and as soon as she does, he hits her and like full force, like right in the jaw, and she's out on the ground. Okay? Now, the people around there, like the one filming it, for instance, is saying, hey, what are you doing? Now, that's what do you call him? He called him something. He called him a nigga, but he called him like, that's crazy, nigga, that kind of thing. What you doing? So there was some kind of backlash. But the thing that strikes me, because like I said, I've seen more than one of these, and I think a lot of people have, and you wonder, why are they standing there recording, just calling him names? There's a group of you. As soon as that dude got close to her, y'all should have been up in there to push him back and say, hey, you don't get in the face of another person like that. And as soon as he hit her, y'all all should have jumped him right then and there. I don't need to know the context. I don't care if that woman was a flaming KKK member, right? Racist to the bone. Okay? He got in her face, set it up, decked her. There's no reason for that. And that dude deserved to be treated in the way that he's acting. They keep calling each other the N-word all the time. Well, if you're going to act like a nigga, you're going to get beat up like one, too. I mean, I hate that word, but heck, if y'all going to throw it around all the time, then, I mean, what do you want me to tell you? If you're going to act like that, then you're going to be called that. Because in my generation, when I was younger, I remember it was my sister or my brother, mostly my sister, because she was such a spitball, right? So spitfire. I mean, she was ready to fight anybody if they gave a talk, But if someone acted up like a thug, a bully, low class, right, starting shit, my sister would call him a nigga. White, black, didn't matter. She would call him that and worse, right? Because it wasn't about skin color back in those days. This was, 90s. It was about behavior, about how you acted. And if you acted like a criminal or a thug, that's what you got called. In fact, black people at that time would say the same thing. They wouldn't calling each other the N-word all the damn time. That didn't come out until gangster rap started happening, maybe the mid to late 90s or so, Then it was a big thing to start calling each other that. But at the time, I mean, if you heard that word, it was either A, referring to a low-class person, regardless of race, or B, it was said jokingly. White and blacks would call each other that all the time at times, And so when I saw that, my initial response was, why is no one doing anything? Why are we just sitting here filming it? Why is it that it seems like we have a society that somehow says if you're a good human being, you don't beat the shit out of somebody who just knocked out a woman for no reason? That's not being a good man or a good person. That's being a coward, really. That's being useless. It's not that you're being a man of peace. You're not a threat of any kind. And even good men or women, right? There needs to be a part of you that is threatening to evil people. Evil people need to be a little nervous around you because they know you're not going to run away from it. I'm sorry, as a Catholic, you need to be a man who's ready to go to war. Yes, even physically. Yes, we talk about spiritual warfare all the time, and that is true. Yes, we want to be men of peace and prayer. But in the face of evil men, you need to rise up and put violence to work. Because I'm sorry, violence in and of itself is not an intrinsic evil. Unjust violence is. But when someone is acting that way, they're acting that way because there's been no men, particularly Catholics, who stood up, draw the line, stood there and said, you step closer, you step any further, you're getting an education. Instead, we've got this feminized version of Catholicism, which, I'm sorry, I can't help but think and feel like that came from the Novus Ordo. Ever since, I've always been in the new Mass and that kind of stuff. I've never had a problem with it until after seminary. And I started, and Pope Francis actually, and I started seeing everything that traditionalists were complaining about. I'm like, listen, I know traditionalists can go too far. They can be very unwelcoming at times. They can be very angry at times. But I can't deny the fruit of what I'm seeing. The fruit of what has come about through the late 60s and 70s that has blossomed into today with these effeminate men who think they're going to just sing Kumbaya all their way through all this violence. That they're just going to, well, if we're just reasonable, intelligent, educated, thoughtful, wise, prayerful men, and all we need to do is just stand there and take the hits, right? We just need to stand there and take the fist as he's beating us across the head. We're going to stand strong. We're going to be real strong men and just let them beat us up. No, it doesn't work like that. I'm sorry. The world does not work that way, right? There is a time and a place where you're just laying your life down. You're saying, well, I'm not going to raise my fist or my weapons, that kind of thing. There's a time for that when you just you accept martyrdom. But God brings martyrdom to you. You don't go looking for it. You don't go out there saying, I'm going to be a martyr today. No. Someone steps up and get in your face like that. All right? It's not your decision to say, I'm going to be a martyr today. And I'm just going to let this person beat the hell out of me and then harm somebody else because this guy now thinks he can do whatever he wants to anyone. Because he's such a thug. He's such a hard ass, right? No one's going to mess with him. Because we don't ever give these people an education in what real Catholic men are born to be. Well, then, of course, we're just going to get walked over. Oh, you want martyrdom? Well, guess what? You're inviting in it now. You want society to be better, but you're not going to actually ever do anything about it except talk? I'm sorry, that's not going to play. You're not going to get far. Don't get me wrong. All those things are important. The the peace, the prayer, the talking. Prayer is the most important thing. But if your prayer life is, I'm going to stay disciplined in prayer, and then when I walk out that door, let anyone and everyone beat the shit out of my fellow Christians or fellow people, and an act of laying my life down, I'm just going to stand there and go, hey, brother, my brother in Christ, please, let's just be reasonable. Let's just talk this through, brother in Christ. That brother in Christ is going to beat the shit out of you. That's the rules of the streets and the world. I wish the world wasn't like that. I wish to God it was such a nice, peaceful place. And I wish love won every time. Okay? And once again, there is indeed a time when we're called to just, all right, we're going to lay our life down. Scenes like this, though, ain't it. That ain't the time. Our Lord will tell you when it's time to do that. When you have done all you can to fight and to live, and then there's nothing left, all right, then you say, well, I'm still not moving. You'll have to kill me. Right? You see where I'm going with this? We got to stop being effeminate men. I mean, I'm as much a victim of it as well. I got to get myself into shape. I understand that. But that's also why I feel like we should be more united as a people and say these things out loud. And stop what they say, pussyfooting around. Stop talking a nice big game, right? But all these kind of videos happen and no one's doing anything except recording. Say, oh man, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? Don't ask what's wrong with him. Choke that dude out. Something. Make an example. Damn. Look, Vlad the Impaler was an awful dude, all right? He did unjust things, okay? He did things that war crimes, immorality. There's no justification for it. I'm not justifying it. I'm merely going to point out the fact with the story of Vlad the Impaler. He did do something. He demonstrated something. When you take the enemy and you put them and impale them on pikes, right? And then their army shows up to cause trouble, guess what's going to happen? They're going to think twice. Now, I'm not saying you should go out there and start putting people on pikes. That's not the point. I'm merely making the point that reputation and example go a long way. Okay? And if we refuse to, as I think St. Paul was talking about how the king does not wield the sword in vain. If we refuse to wield the rod of discipline, if we refuse to act as men were always called to act and beating the heck out of people like that, right? The message is never sent. And thus, the need to do it more and more will arise. Because when you take the one guy in the classroom who just did something small, and you come down hard on him, right? What do you think that says to all the other ones in the classroom? Well, I better not try that. I better make sure I'm on my toes here. And what happens when you don't do any of that? You get a mutiny. They all start doing it. So keep that in mind the next time you're thinking, well, Jesus says, be at peace. Jesus beat people with a whip. No, it wasn't just a tiny little cord that tickled them a little bit. He was flipping tables and beating the living hell out of them with a whip. All right? We have this impression that, well, it was just some little string. And he was like, ooh, go away, go away. I'm sorry, if that's the Jesus that you believe, if that's Jesus, I cannot believe in him. I cannot follow a Jesus who apparently has no clue how men work. Has no clue how society works when he's going to act like that and think something's going to happen. But of course, that's not the real Jesus, because Jesus is God. God created man, and he knows what we need to hear and to see. And he says, yes, love thy enemy. Yes, turn the other cheek, which is about meekness, which means long suffering. And I believe in that. And there's also a time and a place for the use of the rod. Otherwise, the child gets spoiled. And not just children, but adults too. Now, as I was watching this, I also thought of something else, though, that came to mind. Is our impression that we get from Twitter, YouTube, the news, is that impression accurate? Or is it just what other organizations may want us to see and think and believe? Now, what I'm getting at here is that if you're a white dude, right, more than likely you're going to get video recommendations and groups and people and so forth showing black on white crime, okay, that is horrible and unjustified. I'm willing to bet that if you're a black dude or woman, whatever, your Twitter feed is full of the opposite. Your Facebook feed or whatever is full of the opposite. You're seeing a bunch of white people beating up on black people and yelling horrible racist things, okay? I'm willing to bet that this algorithm out there for Facebook or X or even YouTube or even the news itself purposely picks out those events and keeps throwing them to whoever they want to be seeing these things. So that way white and black both hate each other. And we both have what we think is a legitimate reason to feel this anger towards each other. Because I can point to 40 different events I saw on Facebook or Twitter or YouTube or the news where some black dude or woman did something horrible to some white person and they're getting away with it, or they're getting a slap on the wrist, or the news anchor guy is talking about how, well, what did the white person do? I mean, he must have did something to set him off. Like, blaming the victim. We can all think of something like that, right? And I'm willing to bet that those in the black community get the same thing. And the same for the Spanish or the Asian community. They see things against them and so forth and so on. And so they feel like when they meet someone like any other race, right, there's already built into them a bias and an anger. Because I saw it on TV. I saw it on YouTube. I saw it on Twitter. I heard this podcaster talk about how awful my race is and how we're just nothing but a bunch of animals and whatnot, right? You have all these sources you think you have. But I'm wondering, is this just manipulation? Let me tell you another anecdotal or thought experiment. I have, for the past 3 years, taught nothing but black girls, okay, in a school. And of course, they have they're in their mind that, they're oppressed and white people are out to get them half the time. They would say, well, not you. Not you. You're one of the good ones. So I'll take that as a compliment. But at the very least, they have this impression that the KKK is right around the corner. That whites are just looking at them dirty, like, ooh, you little nigglets, like they're out to get them, Some of that comes from their parents. Some of that comes from, like I said, the social media or the news. But I'm sure each one of them could give me an anecdotal story of how they ran into something serious or something like that in their personal life, walking down the street. Someone called them the N-word or something or whatever, right? Now, the question is it that there's racism all over, right? Against them? Or are they being given that impression through social media and the news and everything? And then the one person who happens to just say something to them, well, that just confirms everything that's just been shown. Everything they've been told, right? And now, of course, they feel very justified in their belief that, whitey's out to get me, okay? And what if it's the same way for us, too? All day long, we're being shown the things that has happened to people, white people or whatnot. And now, when we meet the person that has this built-in bias against whites, we go, aha, you see? I knew it. Look at the way they talk. They think they're a victim all the time. And, man, they're just as racist as they claim we are, right? The way they're talking to me and about me and this kind of thing. The way they're looking at me, little snide remarks, everything. I mean, teaching at this school for the past 3 years, there's more than a few times where that's happened, where I'm getting talked down to or whatever, or being treated like I'm one of the bad, ones out to get them or something. Plus, these kids, they don't understand that, or at least they don't think about it, because once again, what the algorithm told them. The algorithm told them, well, they're out to get you, right? So they never once stopped to think, well, maybe that person that was giving me those snide looks, those bad looks and remarks, maybe that person was shown the same BS, but from the other side. So when they saw me, the black kid, they immediately thought, one of them. Who knows? It might be one of them. I'm crossing the street. God knows what they're up to. Right? And then, of course, if one of those kids is loud, right? Kind of snarky, got an attitude they might have gotten from, once again, being told, hey, Whitey's out to get you. And so they have this rebellious attitude amped up 100 times, right? Well, now both groups are confirming the BS they were fed through social media and news. So the question is violence on the rise organically? Or is it on the rise because we've been fed, each of us have been fed one side of the story, and then when we meet each other in the streets, based on that, we're getting into fights? Or, here's another way of putting it, or is violence not really on the rise? That we're just focusing on those events that happen. For instance, if I scoured everything, right, every day, every little microscopic bit of so-called news throughout the day, every story, I could probably find hundreds, if not more, of acts of violence against somebody for some stupid reason. Okay? Does that mean violence is on the rise and it's everywhere? No. No, because look at the pool that I'm taking from. I'm taking from over 300 million Americans, right? And that's just in this country. That's who I'm pulling from to get that sample. Yeah, out of 300 million, you would expect a few hundred incidents of violence or more. That's still not even a percentage point. That doesn't even make the list. But if that's all I'm looking at and looking for, well, then I'm going to find what I'm looking for, ain't it? I'm going to be inundated with all these stories of horrendous violence and evil going on. My people are under attack, would be the impression. Now, I also believe, though, that there are quite a few in leadership roles, community organizers, and this kind of stuff, especially politicians. They're probably all in bed together anyway. The politicians rub elbows with the community organizer, and they give power to each other. One gives them votes, the other gives them funding and money, right? And takes a picture with you. Those guys, I think, are the real problem. They are the ones who are up to no good, because they're the ones who need the hatred and the chaos to continue. They need it. Without it, they don't get a paycheck. They don't get votes. They don't get power. They fade away as just a joke. Because, like I said, like in the 90s, my generation, I was born in the 80s, racism was kind of like a joke. It wasn't a serious problem. We would tell jokes that were racist jokes. No one cared. We laughed, both sides. Black, white, yellow, it didn't matter. Y'all laughed about it. I mean, how many times could if I had a friend, we'd call him Yellow just for the fun of it. And it's like, or we'd call him some made up, Chinese or Japanese name, even though he's like Filipino or Vietnamese or something. It's like, and how many things would he call us? Back and forth. These damn round eyes. Like, all right, Squinty. It's like, it was a joke. We made fun of each other. We laughed. It was not serious. We were friends, and close friends too. Now it's become something else. And I blame the leadership for that. So-called leadership. BLM, for instance, is a terrorist group. They don't care about black people. Should we call Black Lives Don't Matter? Because they don't care. What they care about is the funding. What they care about is how good they look in the eyes of the community, right? oh, that's one of us. That's our organization, man. It feels good to be part of something. That doesn't mean every single person who supports BLM or is working with them is necessarily a terrorist. I've met a lot of good people who don't ascribe to the violence and whatnot that comes out of that group. It has more to do with the fact that it's, our people, our group, right? And so I don't want to generalize every single person, but the group as a whole, as an ideology, right? BLM. I'm sorry, it's a terrorist group. They were shooting people back when they started up, and then they were walking away from them, nothing happened to them, right? So I think the real evil comes from the politicians who need the chaos in order to thrive. And until people start changing how they think and see, stop believing every BS story they see, and start discerning between the subjective and the objective. I know those are words that people don't like to hear, or they think, oh God, here we go, big philosophical stuff. But there is a difference between this subjective event that I saw, right, on the video I discussed, and the objective and general reality. The subjective is that guy needs to get his ass beat. The objective is, well, I don't necessarily think it's every black person on the planet. Most people don't. I don't think anybody thinks all black people are the problem. But that is the difference between the two. I can look at that guy and go, that's how he needs to be treated, without saying all of y'all are just apes, whatever insult to throw out. I could still have many black brothers and sisters. And like I said, working at the school I was working at, they were all great people. I had no issue with one. The parents were wonderful. Parents, boy, I had more problems with the white parents at the school that I taught with white kids than I did with this one, because the white parents were the ones who would fight you more. Their kid got in trouble, they want to know why. Now, that doesn't mean it did not happen at the school. And when it did happen, it got really bad, okay? And a few times it happened, you got people getting loud, screaming violence and everything, wanting to come back and beat everybody up at school, right? So when it does happen, it goes to an extreme. But in my little classroom, the parents I met, they were all happy to see me. Hey, how you doing? How's my girl doing? She's doing okay. She would look over at her daughter. Is she? Because I will teach her a lesson right now. Like, they didn't hold back. I said, no, she's doing all right. Or, well, she does a little things off. I'm a girl. Like, they would get mad right then and there, So, wonderful people. But there is that ideology, though, ingrained in them that, well, of course, white people are just oppressive. Or we have been slaves for so long and we're being oppressed even today. And so on and so on. They don't mean to have this victim mentality. It's just that I feel like it's been inbred into them through their community leaders. And I mean, you look at even priests on the Catholic Church. Some of them will, yeah, boy, we got it hard as black people. We got. What are you talking about, dude? Like you realize you're gonna get them thinking that what they see in the media is true. That, oh boy, they're all out to get you. I mean, please don't feed into that. But we do. It's common where we just feed into what social media is given. And until we change that, until we get away from the social media crap, until we start to think in terms of, yes, that event was god awful, but I'm not going to pretend that I'm some kind of a victim because of that. When the black community, or seemingly black community, I don't want to say it's all of them, but the ones I've seen, they take up for this guy who stabbed that white boy. I can't remember his name, Carmelo, whatever his name was. What are you doing defending that dude? You can defend your own community without defending the criminals and the crooks. If the roles were reversed, I would be standing up for that white boy. If he walked into that place he did not belong in and was doing what he was doing, right? And then he ended up stabbing the black kid, no, I'd say him. He needs to get the death penalty just as much as the other one does. I'm sorry, you don't act that way. And I'm not going to defend it just because he's my skin color. All right? My people are the baptized, and in particular, Roman Catholics. That's my brothers and sisters right there. Okay? If you're baptized, great. You are at least related to me in the family, right? If you're a Catholic, oh man, we truly are brothers and sisters, right? And I've told some of my black students that before. I said that my identity is that as a Roman Catholic. If you're Christian, you're not Catholic, right? Hey, I still consider you like a cousin, okay? But if you're Roman Catholic, you're my sister. All right? Doesn't matter about your color and what any of that stuff. It's like, why does that matter? Why does the color of the crayon freaking matter at this point? Anyway, I'm getting off topic with that one. But a huge problem is, are we under information overload? We used to be, we don't have enough information. No, I think we get too much information. Or I should say, we get too much of the incorrect information. Too much of half the information, for use like an oxymoron. They're giving you every little nitpicking thing that happens every single day, every word uttered, every post made. And then making it sound like it's the end of the world because someone used the N-word. Ooh. As if that's never happened before. Or it's happened so much that it just shows the KKK is going to come and rise again. And blah, blah, blah. By the way, the KKK were a bunch of Democrats. They happened because of a lot of things, but one of which being the way Reconstruction was handled. So thank you, Yankees, for the birth of the KKK and racial tension. Yes, it is in great large part your problem. That doesn't mean we didn't have problems at the time. But I'm sorry, after Reconstruction and everything, Yankees came in and tried to force things that was not ready to be forced. And you caused a lot of racial tension to explode, okay? So the Yankee, that's what happens when you trust a Yankee. I'm sorry. Stay out of the South. All right, you handle you. We'll got our stuff. We'll handle it. It'll get taken care of. The racism and all that kind of stuff, guess what? Would have went away naturally and organically. It wasn't going to stay forever, okay? Anyway, that's a whole nother topic that I won't go into right now. So let me leave you with just those thoughts. One, why are men so effeminate when they see this stuff happen that we don't act? That we think being a good Catholic means I need to shut up and mind my own business and just pray for that person? And when we see violence, we're thinking, oh, that's not very Catholic. Why is that? Where did that mindset come from? Because for what I've seen in the scriptures and when I've looked at history and even the lives of the saints, that was not a thing, okay? But somehow today, a true saint is one who likes getting his ass kicked for no reason. The second thing is, are we being manipulated by the algorithm to think there's an element of violence and racism that maybe is not as prevalent, as we may believe it is? I'm not saying it doesn't exist or it's all made up. But is it possible that it's not as all over the place as we're led to believe? And if it is out there like it is, what's the solution? I think sometimes the solution is you send a message. If I send a message, I don't mean go out and commit a crime. What I mean is when evil raises its head, it gets dealt with very sternly, without any wishy-washy pop psychology babble. And you say, hey, I'm evil. We're not going to put up with this. This is what happens when you do that. All right? And I think that if that approach was taken, you would have less violence and less of these issues, less of these problems arising, because they would know what's going to happen. But hey, maybe I'm wrong, right? So any suggestions, I'm open to. So I believe we're being manipulated to a large degree, but hey, maybe someone out there believes differently. All right, well, that's enough out of me. It's been 34 minutes? Time for me to shut up. I think I'm going to go smoke my cigar, or maybe just drink my whiskey. I like to drink my whiskey or smoke my cigar while I'm doing this because it's more comforting. I feel like, hey, we're all in the council chambers together. But I don't have that tonight because I'm inside. I can't smoke inside. So, all right, y'all anyone who hears this, take care. God bless. Christus Regnat, Christus Imperat. Goodbye.